The morning sun had barely begun to warm the grounds of the secluded Virginia training facility, yet the air was already thick with anticipation. Birds chirped intermittently, but their melodies seemed faint compared to the low hum of activity within the sprawling compound. Elite U.S. Navy SEALs, renowned for their unshakable discipline and physical prowess, were already warming up in small groups, tossing medicine balls, running obstacle courses, and sparring in controlled drills. The scent of sweat mixed with the faint tang of freshly mowed grass as the men and women pushed their bodies to the limits, each movement honed by years of rigorous training. Among the group, she moved differently. While the SEALs radiated raw energy and casual camaraderie, she carried herself with measured grace, each step precise, purposeful. The faint click of her boots against the concrete pathway was almost imperceptible, yet it cut through the morning air like a soft but insistent warning. Her hair was tied back in a tight braid, and her eyes, sharp and assessing, scanned the environment with unerring focus. At 29 years old, she had already faced situations that tested the limits of fear, endurance, and human capability. Few could imagine that behind her calm exterior lay decades of grueling discipline and an arsenal of lethal skills. A few SEALs noticed her approach and immediately exchanged smirks. "Wait, that's her," one muttered, eyebrows raised. "A woman." The words were barely audible over the clatter of training equipment, but the tone carried a mixture of disbelief and amusement. Others snorted, clearly expecting her to be out of her depth. The mocking undercurrent rippled through the group like an invisible current, subtle yet unmistakable. Their laughter, low and derisive, hinted at a collective assumption. She was unlikely to last even a few minutes in any combat scenario with them. She ignored the whispers, the sideways glances, the skeptical smirks. Each step forward was deliberate, calm, almost predatory. Her body was a finely tuned instrument. Every muscle was trained for speed, balance, and precision. Years of hand-to-hand combat, tactical training, and psychological conditioning had taught her that fear and distraction were weaknesses to be eliminated, not indulged. Today, she would prove that skill, strategy, and unwavering focus could silence even the most confident skeptics. The facility's commanding officer, a grizzled veteran with more than 2 decades of field experience, approached, clipboard in hand. He gave her a quick, appraising glance, his eyes sharp beneath the brim of his cap. "You're sure about this?" he asked quietly. There was no doubt in his voice. He had seen her in action before, but it was a test, and the SEALs needed to be reminded that judgment based on reputation was often misleading. She simply nodded. Words were unnecessary. Her readiness spoke louder than any verbal assurance. A hush fell over the training grounds as the SEALs began to notice her calm composure. She didn't boast, didn't flex, didn't waste energy on theatrics. Instead, she stood apart from the crowd, observing, analyzing, and mentally cataloging each fighter's stance, movement, and likely strategy. Her eyes flicked from one man to another, taking in small details. The angle of a wrist, the tension in a shoulder, the subtle shift of weight that revealed habits honed over countless hours of repetition. She was preparing for a challenge few could anticipate, and she would meet it with precision. Moments later, the murmuring group gathered around, curiosity now mingled with skepticism. One of the SEALs, tall and broad-shouldered, stepped forward, his grin mocking but his eyes calculating. "So you really think you can handle 10 of us?" he said, voice dripping with amusement. The other men laughed, the sound sharp and taunting. Bets were made, jokes exchanged, and assumptions whispered. Surely she would falter, trip, or be thrown off by the sheer size and strength of her opponents. She didn't respond. Instead, she let her presence answer for her. Every muscle was loose yet ready, every movement fluid yet controlled. She exuded a quiet confidence that unsettled some and intrigued others. This was the calm before a storm, the moment when arrogance met focus, when underestimation clashed with mastery. In that silence, tension crackled through the air, electric and palpable, as if the training ground itself sensed the confrontation to come. As the SEALs continued their warm-ups, she casually circled the edge of the arena, observing. One grabbed a training dummy and swung it with brute force. She noted the angle and timing, internalizing the mechanics. Another performed a rapid succession of kicks. She mirrored the motion silently, refining her reflexes, feeling the rhythm of combat in her bones. These weren't merely exercises. They were insights into each man's fighting style, subtle patterns that would reveal themselves in the seconds that mattered most. Her mind wandered briefly to past missions, the crucible moments where her survival depended on split-second decisions. Every operation, every close call, every victory and failure had trained her body and mind to function as one. She recalled the sensation of controlling chaos, the clarity of thought amid imminent danger, the unshakable focus that separated life from death. None of her observers could see this depth of experience, but it gave her a confidence that was nearly palpable. The SEAL's mockery, once loud and pervasive, now seemed trivial, almost ignorant of the reality that she was the culmination of years of relentless discipline. The commanding officer clapped his hands, signaling the start of the challenge. The SEALs straightened, confidence returning, certain that their years of experience gave them the edge. "All right," he said, "one-on-one, 10 against 1. Let's see what she's got." The crowd of trainees leaned in, anticipation thickening the air. Laughter had diminished to cautious whispers, replaced by a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. They would soon learn that skill could defy expectation, that preparation could override arrogance. Her eyes narrowed slightly, a hint of a smile playing at the corner of her mouth, not from pride but from the sheer clarity of the moment. Each SEAL stepped forward, a confident wall of muscle and training, unaware of the storm about to unfold. She shifted her stance, grounding herself, her senses attuned to movement, sound, and instinct. The first man approached, smirking, underestimating the force and precision she carried in every motion. In that instant, silence replaced mockery. 10 SEALs, ready to demonstrate their dominance, would soon face a reality they hadn't anticipated. The quiet strength of a master prepared, unshaken, unstoppable. She inhaled slowly, feeling the rhythm of the air around her, the subtle vibrations through the floor, the weight of expectation pressing against the room. It was a test of skill, yes, but also of psychology, of focus, patience, and calm under pressure. Her opponents believed in their superiority. She believed in preparation. As the first SEAL lunged forward, confident and arrogant, the moment hung suspended, a single heartbeat before history would remember her quiet dominance. And then, with precision and grace, she moved. The air was thick with anticipation, and the SEAL's earlier laughter had vanished, replaced by the quiet hum of expectation. 10 men, all trained, experienced, and confident, stood in a semicircle, sizing her up. Each believed they knew the rhythm of battle, the strength of human limits, yet none could see the calm storm contained in her measured gaze. Her eyes scanned them like a chess master assessing pawns and knights, noting subtle shifts in weight, the way their shoulders tensed, or their eyes flicked briefly to test the reach of an opponent. The tallest SEAL, broad-shouldered and brimming with overconfidence, stepped forward first. "Don't hurt yourself," he taunted, voice dripping with mockery. Behind him, his comrades exchanged smirks, fully expecting the first few seconds to prove their superiority. But she didn't respond verbally. She didn't need to. Her stance, low and poised, radiated readiness. Every subtle muscle contraction, every minimal adjustment of her feet signaled an acute awareness of every potential attack. The first man lunged. Instinctively, she pivoting on her heel with a speed that caught him off guard. His momentum carried him past her, and she used it against him, placing a firm grip on his arm and redirecting his balance. With a fluid motion, he stumbled to the ground, unable to counteract the precise force she applied. Shock flickered across his face, the first sign that the woman before them was no ordinary operative. The second SEAL charged simultaneously, attempting to close the distance with a high kick. Her training had prepared her for this. Thousands of hours practicing the interception of strikes, countering aggression with efficiency rather than brute force. She moved with a combination of agility and timing, pivoting just enough to avoid the blow while executing a precise push to the opponent's chest. The man stumbled backward, losing footing and balance, surprised by the speed of her reaction. From the sidelines, whispers spread among the trainees who had gathered to watch. "Did you see that?" one muttered. She's fast, faster than I imagined." The laughter of moments before had vanished entirely, replaced by cautious murmurs and incredulous stares. The remaining SEALs' mockery was replaced by tension. The first signs of doubt crept into their confident minds. She didn't pause. Every motion flowed into the next, every strike carefully measured. The third SEAL, aiming for a grappling maneuver, approached with calculated force, expecting her to be reactive rather than proactive. She anticipated, stepping to the side, grabbing his arm mid-motion, and redirecting him with a swift turn that sent him sprawling across the training mats. The sound of the impact echoed, punctuating the growing realization: underestimation was deadly. One by one, the SEALs approached, each bringing unique techniques honed through countless drills and simulations. She countered effortlessly, blending speed, technique, and mental acuity. The movements were seamless. There was no wasted energy, no hesitation. Her opponents were forced into a reactive state, struggling to regain composure, their prior confidence dissolving with each precise maneuver. Her mind remained calm. She assessed and adapted in real time, calculating angles, force, and timing with machine-like precision. This wasn't just combat. It was strategy manifested physically. Every feint, every shift of weight, every subtle change in stance was recorded and processed in an instant. She used each opponent's momentum against him, each aggressive move becoming a tool for her advantage. For the SEALs, the experience was disorienting. They were trained to anticipate, to act decisively, to dominate, yet here was a single operative neutralizing them with calm and certainty. One attempted a rapid combination strike. She countered, her movements almost imperceptible in their efficiency. Another tried a low sweep, only to be and gently but firmly pushed to the floor. Each takedown reinforced a growing realization: this was no ordinary encounter. The silence that had settled was nearly deafening. The SEALs had mocked her mere moments ago. Now, disbelief replaced arrogance. They exchanged subtle glances, silently questioning how one woman could move with such lethal precision and fluidity. Their focus, once confident and assertive, began to waver, and hesitation crept into even the most seasoned. Her breathing remained steady, calm, measured, unhurried. The rhythm of her movements, the clarity of thought behind every action, and the discipline evident in each strike made her presence commanding. She was not fighting recklessly. Every counter, every motion was executed with absolute control. Each SEAL she neutralized was a testament to preparation, mental acuity, and relentless training. The fourth SEAL attempted a surprise maneuver, rushing from the side with a series of quick strikes designed to overwhelm. She read him instantly, pivoted, and executed a fluid counter that redirected his momentum into a controlled fall. The air seemed to shift around her, heavy with the realization that the earlier mockery had been not just misplaced but perilous. She had turned an exercise into a lesson in humility and respect. As the fifth and sixth SEALs advanced, attempting coordinated attacks, she moved seamlessly between them. Every takedown was calculated, precise, and executed in seconds. She exploited each opening, leveraging their own strength against them. Shock and disbelief spread through the group. The initial smirks and laughs were gone. Some froze mid-attack, unable to reconcile the speed, skill, and control she exhibited. Even the commanding officer observed silently, acknowledging the rare display of mastery before him. Her strategy was simple yet devastating: anticipate, neutralize, and maintain composure. Each opponent became an extension of her awareness, each strike an expression of controlled power. The SEALs' pride was challenged, their assumptions shattered. They had mocked, assuming superiority, but she had proven that skill, focus, and precision could overturn expectation in seconds. The seventh SEAL, the fastest among them, lunged with aggressive strikes, attempting to overwhelm through sheer speed. She anticipated, moving with uncanny timing, and redirected him with minimal effort, sending him sprawling. The impact resounded through the facility, and the remaining SEALs instinctively hesitated, exchanging glances of disbelief. This was no ordinary display. It was mastery executed flawlessly under pressure. By now, the psychological impact of her dominance was evident. The remaining SEALs approached cautiously, their confidence waning. They realized that this wasn't brute force at play but strategy, calculation, and a level of skill that few could anticipate. Each step she took was deliberate, commanding space and attention, reinforcing the lesson that underestimation carried consequences. With each movement, she maintained unwavering focus. Her calm exterior never faltered, her breathing rhythmic, her mind sharp. Even as multiple opponents advanced simultaneously, she flowed through them with precision, using their momentum, exploiting weaknesses, and maintaining control. The chaos around her was transformed into orchestrated efficiency, a ballet of tactical skill that left onlookers awestruck. Finally, as the last of the 10 SEALs approached, a tension-filled silence blanketed the training area. The first 6 were already neutralized, the remaining 4 visibly shaken by the display of skill they had underestimated. Even their most confident gestures were tempered by the realization that she was not only faster and stronger than expected but also smarter, more observant, and perfectly composed. In those moments, the mocking laughter from earlier dissolved completely. They had assumed she would falter, that their experience and strength would dominate. Now, every SEAL understood that assumptions based on appearances could be deadly. Each takedown had been not just a physical defeat but a psychological lesson. Preparation, focus, and skill outweigh arrogance and mockery. She adjusted her stance, eyes scanning the remaining 4. A brief, calculated pause allowed her to assess angles and anticipate attacks. The SEALs, once poised and confident, hesitated. Fear was subtle but present in their eyes, a recognition of skill, of control, of a challenge they had misjudged. They had mocked her, yet she had demonstrated dominance, precision, and composure that few could ever match. And as the first of the remaining SEALs lunged, the facility seemed to hold its breath. In that moment, every observer, every participant, understood the full gravity of the lesson. She was not to be underestimated, and her mastery could not be challenged without consequence. The remaining SEALs hesitated, glancing at one another with uncertainty. What had seemed a routine drill moments before had transformed into something far more serious. Their earlier laughter had been replaced by tension, a creeping awareness that their assumptions about her skill had been utterly wrong. Even the most experienced among them, men who had faced hostile fire and grueling missions abroad, could not deny the precision, speed, and control she exhibited. Their confidence, once unwavering, now wavered like a candle flame caught in a sudden draft. She stood poised, every muscle relaxed but ready, eyes scanning, movements subtle and deliberate. Her breath was steady, rhythmic, a heartbeat echoing calm amid the storm. The previous takedowns had been rapid, but she knew the remaining SEALs were more alert now, their attacks unpredictable. It was no longer about speed alone. It was about reading patterns, anticipating intentions, and exploiting openings with surgical precision. Each second mattered. Hesitation could cost them, and overconfidence could cost her energy or focus. The 7th SEAL, broad-shouldered and fast, moved first, lunging with a series of strikes meant to overwhelm. She fluidly, slipping past his reach as if gliding over air. With an almost imperceptible twist of her wrist, she used his momentum against him, redirecting him into a controlled fall. The sound of his body hitting the padded floor was followed by the stunned silence of his peers. It was the first clear sign that the remaining 4 SEALs were beginning to realize she was not just capable, she was dominant. The 8th SEAL approached from the side, attempting a high sweep to catch her off balance. Her eyes tracked his movement, predicting the angle and force. With a precise pivot and a calculated step, she avoided the sweep, catching his arm mid-motion. A swift turn and subtle leverage sent him sprawling backward. There was no anger in her movements, no malice, only efficiency and controlled force. The SEALs watched, momentarily frozen, as their colleagues struggled to regain footing. She moved with relentless focus. The ninth SEAL, hopping to exploit distraction, tried a rapid combination of strikes, expecting hesitation. But she didn't hesitate. Each motion was deliberate, calculated, and perfectly timed. She intercepted his advance, redirecting his energy to neutralize him without excessive force. The precision of her actions left the SEALs visibly unsettled. They had mocked her before the fight, certain in their superiority, and now every move she executed further shattered their confidence. Even the 10th SEAL, the most seasoned among them, felt the pressure of the moment. He had watched the others fall, each neutralized with efficiency, and now faced her directly. He shifted his stance, testing the waters, attempting to predict her pattern. But she was already a step ahead, reading not just the visible cues but subtle micro-movements that revealed intention. With a slight sidestep and a swift, controlled push, she sent him stumbling, disrupting his rhythm and leaving him momentarily exposed. The momentum was unmistakable. The drill, which had begun as an exhibition of skill, had evolved into a demonstration of mastery. Each movement she made was a study in efficiency, minimal effort, maximum effect. The SEAL's previous confidence was replaced with an acute awareness of her presence, each second a lesson in humility. Their mockery had dissolved into awe. Every strike, every pivot, every takedown spoke louder than words ever could. On the sidelines, a few trainees whispered to one another, astonishment clear in their voices. "She's incredible," one murmured. "I didn't think anyone could move like that, let alone a single operative." Their tone carried not just surprise but respect. The spectacle unfolding before them was unlike anything they had witnessed. The combination of speed, precision, and psychological control made her a force few could anticipate and fewer still could counter. She didn't allow herself a moment of distraction. She had learned through countless drills and real-world experience that even a minor lapse could be costly. Each remaining SEAL approached with caution, their movements less confident, their strikes slower, more tentative. But she adapted seamlessly, flowing between them with unmatched agility. She neutralized attacks before they fully materialized, redirecting energy, exploiting gaps, and maintaining control of the space around her. The training ground had become a stage for her mastery, a choreography of tactical brilliance executed with lethal grace. The 7th SEAL attempted a feint, trying to lure her into an overextension. She anticipated the ploy, responding not with force but with subtle redirection, allowing him to expend energy while maintaining balance and composure. His momentum carried him off-center, leaving him vulnerable to her next move. She didn't strike unnecessarily. Instead, she positioned herself to neutralize his threat with minimal exertion. Observers could see the difference between brute aggression and precise mastery. Every motion was intentional, every reaction calculated. By now, the psychological impact on the SEALs was profound. They had begun with mockery and arrogance, expecting an easy demonstration of superiority. But the reality of her skill had altered the dynamics entirely. Confidence gave way to hesitation, and hesitation brought vulnerability. Even the most experienced among them found themselves reacting instead of initiating. The lesson was clear. Underestimation could be fatal, and skill often came from unexpected sources. The 8th SEAL, attempting a coordinated move with the 9th, sought to overwhelm her through teamwork. But she anticipated the convergence, adjusting her stance, shifting her center of gravity, and neutralizing one while avoiding the other. The synergy of her movements, the clarity of her timing, and the unshakable calm in her demeanor left both SEALs struggling to regain composure. Shock and awe rippled through the remaining team, their previous arrogance now replaced with cautious respect. The 9th SEAL tried a last-ditch offensive, advancing with rapid strikes designed to surprise and overpower. Yet she remained serene, reading his intentions in microseconds. With a deft sidestep and controlled push, she neutralized his momentum, sending him sprawling onto the padded mat. The sound of impact echoed through the facility, punctuating the lesson she had been delivering since the first strike. Preparation, focus, and precision trumped brute strength and overconfidence. The 10th SEAL, now fully aware of the mastery she commanded, approached cautiously, testing angles and feints. He attempted a high kick, followed by a swift punch combination. She responded flawlessly, intercepting his motions, redirecting force and maintaining perfect balance. With a subtle twist, she sent him stumbling, unable to counter her calculated movements. The room was silent except for the soft thuds of controlled takedowns and the shallow breaths of those still processing the spectacle. By the time she completed the sequence, 8 of the 10 SEALs had been neutralized with unmatched efficiency. Their earlier mocking laughter had vanished entirely. In its place was a heavy silence, filled with disbelief and admiration. Observers whispered, trying to articulate the impossible. How one woman, moving with calm determination and calculated precision, had taken control of an entire team of elite warriors in mere seconds. Her body remained poised, every muscle relaxed yet ready, as if the fight had been an extension of natural instinct rather than deliberate exertion. Her breathing remained steady, rhythmic, controlled, a testament to the mental and physical discipline that had brought her to this moment. The remaining 2 SEALs exchanged glances, an unspoken acknowledgement passing between them. Underestimation had been their mistake, and respect was now mandatory. The commanding officer, standing silently at the edge of the training area, observed the unfolding mastery with a subtle nod. This was not merely a display of physical skill. It was a demonstration of mental acuity, psychological composure, and tactical brilliance. He recognized what the SEALs were only beginning to comprehend. This operative was extraordinary, and her dominance had been quiet, precise, and inevitable from the moment she had entered the arena. She adjusted her stance, scanning the remaining 2 SEALs with measured eyes. Her calm, controlled demeanor was almost unsettling in its clarity. The mockery of moments before had been replaced with a quiet reverence, a profound understanding that mastery often arrives unexpectedly, and that skill, focus, and preparation could outmatch even the most formidable opponents. The stage was set for the next phase of the encounter. Momentum had shifted irrevocably in her favor. The SEALs, once arrogant and confident, now moved cautiously, aware that their opponent's mastery was real and that each action carried weight beyond physical confrontation. The silent lesson was clear. Underestimate her at your peril. The training facility seemed to hold its breath. 8 of the 10 SEALs had already fallen to her precise, fluid movements, leaving only 2 experienced operatives standing. Their confidence had dissolved into cautious calculation, their once playful demeanor replaced with tense anticipation. Every subtle movement she made radiated control, an unspoken command of the space around her. The remaining SEALs knew instinctively that underestimating her further could leave them both humiliated and exposed. Silence stretched across the room, heavy with expectation, as if even the walls themselves were acknowledging her dominance. The first of the 2 remaining SEALs, tall and muscular, lunged forward with an aggressive combination, attempting to regain authority through raw power. His strikes were sharp, fast, intended to overwhelm, but she remained unflinching. Her eyes tracked every micro-movement, the shift of his weight, the angle of his punch, the minute tension in his wrist. In an instant, she anticipated his attack, pivoting slightly and redirecting his force to neutralize him efficiently. The man stumbled, unable to recover before she executed a controlled push, sending him sprawling across the mat. Shock rippled across the spectators. The remaining SEAL froze momentarily, realizing that she was not merely reacting, she was predicting. Her calm confidence and unhurried movements contrasted sharply with the flurry of failed attacks from the others. The commanding officer, silent yet observant, noted the subtle mastery on display. She wasn't relying on speed alone, nor brute force, but on complete mental and physical synergy. Every motion was purposeful, every response premeditated yet executed in perfect real time. The final SEAL, the most seasoned and cunning of the group, approached cautiously, circling her like a predator testing prey. He tested feints, probing attacks, attempting to exploit perceived weaknesses. But she was several steps ahead, her mind calculating angles, forces, and counters in microseconds. Her body moved as a direct extension of her thought process. every step and pivot a reaction to data she had collected over the past minutes. He lunged, attempting a surprise strike, but she seamlessly, using his momentum against him, sending him sliding past her with minimal effort. The spectators could barely process the speed and precision of her movements. Every takedown was a lesson in tactical brilliance, a display of efficiency and control. She neutralized each threat without unnecessary force, demonstrating skill that few, if any, could match. The shock was not just in the physical defeat of the SEALs but in the psychological realization. They had been completely outmaneuvered. Their initial assumptions, mockery, arrogance, confidence in numbers, had evaporated. They were now witnesses to mastery in its form. As she advanced toward the remaining SEAL, her eyes scanned every possible threat simultaneously. He tried a high kick, then a low sweep, each movement meant to surprise her, but her timing was flawless. She moved with the calm precision of someone who had seen every potential scenario countless times, executing counters before attacks fully materialized. The impact of her movements sent him staggering, his balance compromised. She didn't strike recklessly. She neutralized, controlled, and maintained dominance with the quiet assurance of someone whose skill was absolute. The SEALs who had been taken down struggled to rise, their expressions a mix of disbelief and grudging respect. Even as they attempted to gather themselves, she maintained focus, treating each moment as both observation and execution. The remaining operative lunged again, faster and more aggressively, hopping to capitalize on any sign of fatigue. She didn't hesitate, intercepting him with a precise pivot and redirecting his momentum. The sound of impact echoed across the training room, reinforcing the reality. She had turned the fight into a demonstration of strategic mastery, not just physical skill. The room's energy had shifted entirely. The mocking tone of the earlier minutes was gone, replaced by awe, silence, and a pervasive sense of disbelief. Observers whispered quietly, attempting to rationalize what they had seen. "She predicted that," one muttered. "Every movement, it's like she's reading them before they move." The effect on morale was palpable. 10 highly trained operators, confident in their abilities and accustomed to dominance, were now humbled by her precision and composure. She didn't allow herself a moment to relax. The remaining SEALs, recognizing the gravity of the situation, began to coordinate, attempting to overwhelm her through joint maneuvers. But she anticipated, adjusting her position with almost imperceptible shifts in stance. She neutralized each approach as if orchestrating a dance, maintaining control of both the physical space and the psychological narrative. Her mastery was evident not only in the speed of her actions, but in the efficiency of her energy use. She was calm, measured, and unstoppable. The taller SEAL attempted a feint, hopping to draw her out of balance. Her eyes flicked briefly to the subtle cue, a small shift in his hips, and she responded instantly. A gentle yet forceful push redirected him, and he fell forward into a controlled takedown. The shock on the remaining SEAL's face was evident. Every tactic he attempted had been anticipated and countered, leaving him unsure of how to proceed. Even seasoned warriors could not match the combination of speed, foresight, and composure she displayed. She moved like water, flowing between attacks, exploiting openings with exact precision. The SEAL's movements became more hesitant, defensive, and reactive, an acknowledgement of the dominance she had established. Her calm breathing, controlled stance, and unwavering focus created an aura of inevitability. Each failed strike reinforced the reality of her mastery. She was not merely reacting. She was in control, shaping the course of every encounter in real time. Finally, the last operative, desperate to assert authority, lunged with a series of rapid punches. She shifted, blocked, and redirected his momentum in a fluid sequence that left him unbalanced. With a final controlled push, she sent him sprawling onto the padded mat beside his comrades. The silence that followed was almost tangible. 10 highly trained SEALs, confident in their abilities, had been neutralized with remarkable efficiency. The mockery of moments earlier had been replaced by awe, respect, and silent recognition of her extraordinary skill. The commanding officer stepped forward, his expression calm yet impressed. He surveyed the scene, 8 operators recovering from their initial falls, 2 sprawled on the mat and her standing silently amidst them. She made no move to celebrate, no gesture of pride. Her posture conveyed nothing but composure and readiness. Every motion, every breath, and every glance reinforced the lesson she had delivered. Skill, focus, and preparation commanded respect far beyond numbers or brute strength. Her eyes scanned the room one last time, observing the reactions of the SEALs and trainees. The former mockery had been replaced with reverence. Astonishment had taken the place of arrogance. The story of the morning's drill would be repeated in whispers and conversations, not for humiliation, but for the profound demonstration of capability. Her presence had transformed the facility's atmosphere, leaving a lasting impression on all who witnessed it. She exhaled slowly, a measured breath that punctuated the moment. Her movements, precise and deliberate, had demonstrated not only physical prowess but also strategic brilliance. The remaining SEALs slowly rose, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and respect. The air, once heavy with arrogance and mockery, now felt charged with quiet admiration. The lesson was clear. Underestimation was dangerous, skill demanded respect, and true mastery could defy expectations in an instant. Even as the room settled, she maintained her stance, eyes scanning, mind analyzing, every fiber of her being prepared for any further challenge. The spectacle had shifted perceptions, rewriting assumptions about what one person could achieve against elite forces. The psychological impact on the SEALs was as profound as the physical demonstration. She had commanded authority without raising her voice, dominated without losing composure, and earned respect through action rather than words. By the end of the drill, the silence was complete. No laughter, no mockery, no arrogance remained. She had proven beyond doubt that preparation, focus, and skill could transform expectation into awe. The SEALs, once confident and sure of their superiority, now approached her with careful acknowledgement, a recognition of mastery that transcended rank, experience, or gender. The challenge had begun with mockery and would be remembered for the shock factor of her undeniable competence. In that charged silence, the spectators understood something fundamental. She had done more than neutralize opponents. She had delivered a lesson in discipline, awareness, and the power of calm confidence. Each movement she executed, each takedown performed, and each moment of controlled force left an indelible mark on those present. Respect had been earned in seconds, and the memory of her mastery would linger long after the sounds of impact faded. The remaining SEALs shifted uneasily, glancing at each other for reassurance. 8 of their comrades had already been neutralized with astonishing precision, leaving only 2 standing. Their earlier arrogance had completely vanished, replaced by a tense calculation. Each second she held the field in her control, the more the psychological edge shifted irrevocably in her favor. They were experienced, elite warriors, trained to face danger without hesitation. But she moved with a certainty that rendered even their fastest reactions insufficient. The 9th SEAL, broad-shouldered and determined to regain dominance, lunged aggressively. His strikes were rapid and calculated, meant to overwhelm. But she moved with a calm, fluid grace, pivoting and sidestepping effortlessly. With a precise grip on his arm and an almost imperceptible twist, she redirected his momentum, sending him stumbling backward. The sound of impact on the padded floor echoed through the facility. The SEAL's jaw tightened as he struggled to regain footing, realizing too late that her mastery was both strategic and physical. The 10th SEAL, the last of the group, advanced cautiously, aware of the growing dominance she exerted over the arena. He approached with measured movements, testing angles and feints, attempting to exploit openings that weren't there. She anticipated every subtle shift, reading micro-movements in his stance, in his breathing, in the tension of his muscles. Her awareness extended beyond the visible, perceiving potential intent before it could be acted upon. When he lunged with a high strike, she fluidly, using his force against him and sending him sprawling across the mats. The spectators, still watching from the sidelines, were nearly frozen in disbelief. Whispers filled the room as the full scope of her skill became apparent. "She's unstoppable," one trainee murmured. "It's like she's thinking 3 moves ahead of them." The atmosphere had shifted entirely. Where mockery had once dominated, awe now filled the air. 10 elite operators, each trained for speed, strength, and tactical brilliance, had been neutralized by one woman whose calm composure and strategic acumen made her untouchable. Her movements flowed seamlessly between the 2 remaining SEALs. She didn't attack recklessly or waste energy. Every motion was deliberate, calculated, and executed with precision. When the 9th SEAL attempted a low sweep, she pivoted gracefully, using minimal force to send him tumbling past her. The 10th SEAL tried a combination of rapid punches, but she intercepted and redirected each strike with effortless efficiency. The shock on their faces was evident. They had underestimated her, and now every instinct they had honed for years seemed inadequate against her mastery. Even the commanding officer, who had witnessed countless displays of skill and training, observed silently with a mixture of pride and astonishment. She was executing perfect technique under pressure, blending reflex, anticipation, and strategy in a way few could replicate. Her dominance wasn't just physical, it was psychological. Every takedown, every sidestep, every redirect reinforced the lesson that arrogance and underestimation were dangerous. They had mocked her, yet she had turned the entire drill into a showcase of her unmatched capability. The 9th SEAL, attempting to coordinate with the 10th, tried a joint offensive, hopping to overwhelm her with combined tactics. But she anticipated the convergence, adjusting her stance with imperceptible movements. With precise timing, she neutralized one before avoiding the other, maintaining total control over the sequence. Her skill was almost surgical. She wasted no energy, struck only when necessary, and executed every motion with flawless accuracy. Observers could see the subtle difference between raw power and refined mastery. The psychological impact on the remaining SEALs was profound. Confidence had shifted to hesitation, and hesitation bred vulnerability. Even their most seasoned instincts were challenged, as each attempt to regain control was met with anticipation and flawless counteraction. The arena, once filled with the loud bravado of mockery, was now silent except for the soft impact of bodies meeting mats, each takedown punctuating her dominance. Her calm breathing and unwavering focus amplified the tension, heightening the sense of inevitability. She moved like water between the 2 remaining opponents, anticipating their attacks with astonishing foresight. When the 9th SEAL lunged again, she, twisting his momentum to send him sprawling. The 10th SEAL tried a feint, but she countered flawlessly, redirecting his force and maintaining control. Her awareness was complete. She accounted for each angle, each potential strike, and each movement of her opponents in real time. The sheer efficiency and composure left both SEALs struggling to adapt. Their confidence eroded with each passing second. By now, the spectators could barely comprehend the sequence of events. Every movement she executed demonstrated skill, discipline, and strategic brilliance beyond ordinary comprehension. The SEALs, once confident in their superiority, were now reacting, hesitant, and forced into a defensive posture. The lesson was unmistakable. Mastery could not be underestimated, and skill often transcended size, experience, or expectation. Each precise maneuver reinforced the reality that she was operating on a level few could approach. The 9th SEAL attempted a desperate offensive, swinging with unbridled force in hopes of breaking her rhythm. She moved seamlessly, exploiting his aggression against him, redirecting momentum, and sending him to the mat with minimal effort. The 10th SEAL, now visibly shaken, tried to maintain composure, launching calculated strikes designed to regain control. But she was already anticipating his approach, intercepting each attack with uncanny accuracy, maintaining balance, and neutralizing potential threats before they fully materialized. The room was filled with a quiet awe. 10 SEALs, elite operators confident and trained to dominate, had been systematically neutralized in seconds by one woman whose calm, precise, and strategic movements made her unstoppable. Observers whispered, trying to rationalize the impossible. "It's not just skill, it's like she's seeing 3 steps ahead," one murmured. The energy of the facility had shifted entirely. Arrogance had been replaced with respect, mockery with admiration. Even as she moved, her mind remained calm, her awareness total. Each strike, each pivot, each redirection was executed with minimal effort and maximum effectiveness. She wasn't overextending. She wasn't reckless. Her mastery allowed her to maintain dominance over 10 highly trained opponents, demonstrating the extraordinary power of focus, preparation, and tactical intelligence. The psychological effect on the SEALs was as significant as the physical impact. Their confidence had been dismantled, replaced by a profound recognition of her skill. Finally, the 9th SEAL attempted another joint offensive, coordinating with his remaining teammate. Their movements were deliberate but hesitant, constrained by the memory of previous failures. She responded with flawless timing, neutralizing each approach in sequence. Her movements were almost imperceptible in their efficiency, yet every strike and pivot carried full effect. The room's silence was now total, the spectators' astonishment palpable. Every detail of her mastery, from reading intention to executing precise counters, left a lasting impression. As the last of the remaining SEALs struggled to regain balance, she maintained her calm stance, observing, calculating, and ready to act. The drill, which had begun with mockery and overconfidence, had evolved into a demonstration of precision, strategy, and unwavering focus. The SEAL's earlier assumptions had been shattered, replaced by respect and awe. She had moved through the group with unstoppable momentum, neutralizing threats with speed, skill, and psychological dominance. Her presence dominated the room. She exuded quiet authority, her calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the flustered reactions of her opponents. Every motion was controlled, deliberate, and efficient. Her mastery had turned a seemingly ordinary training exercise into a spectacle of tactical brilliance. Each SEAL, from the first to the last, had been forced to confront their own misjudgment, and each had learned the same lesson: never underestimate skill, preparation, or focus. By the time the final 2 SEALs were subdued, momentum had fully shifted. She had neutralized all 10 operators with efficiency and precision, leaving no room for doubt. The mockery of moments earlier had been erased, replaced entirely with respect and astonishment. Her calm, measured movements had rewritten the rules of expectation, demonstrating mastery that extended far beyond brute strength or numbers. In that charged silence, her mastery was undeniable. The SEALs, once confident and mocking, now stood in quiet recognition of her skill. The lesson had been delivered in seconds but would resonate far longer. Preparation, focus, and strategic execution outweighed arrogance and assumption. She remained poised, every movement controlled, every breath steady, as the weight of her performance sank in. The facility would remember this moment for years, not for humiliation, but for a demonstration of true dominance and tactical brilliance. The room was still, heavy with tension and disbelief. 10 elite SEALs, trained for years in combat, endurance, and precision, stood, or rather lay, humbled and momentarily incapacitated across the training mats. The 2 last standing, faces pale with realization, shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting toward one another for reassurance that was no longer there. The laughter that had welcomed her arrival had vanished, replaced entirely with the quiet acknowledgement of a force none of them had anticipated. Every microsecond of the encounter had stripped away their confidence, leaving only respect and awe in its wake. She remained poised, feet firmly planted, breathing measured, eyes scanning the field with complete awareness. She hadn't rushed, she hadn't relied on brute strength. Every movement had been calculated, each takedown executed with precision, her actions simultaneously defensive, offensive, and strategic. Her calmness amplified her dominance. The quiet, controlled aura she projected contrasted sharply with the SEAL's hurried, uncertain movements. The psychological edge she held now was absolute. The ninth SEAL, still trying to regain footing, hesitated, realizing that the tactical advantage had completely shifted. "We underestimated her," he muttered under his breath, barely audible, but the truth resonated through the entire room. Even the most seasoned operators were beginning to grasp what the exercise had truly been. Not a simple drill, but a demonstration of unmatched mastery under pressure. Their assumptions, mockery, physical dominance, numerical superiority, had been completely dismantled. The 10th SEAL, the last to remain mobile, made one final attempt to assert authority, circling her with a mixture of caution and desperation. He feinted, probing for weakness, attempting to exploit a perceived moment of hesitation. But she anticipated his movements instinctively. Her eyes caught the subtle twitch in his shoulders, the angle of his wrist, the micro-shift of his weight, all signs of intent. In a fluid, almost imperceptible motion, she pivoted and redirected his momentum, sending him sprawling forward. Her calm, controlled stance conveyed a silent yet unmistakable message. Mastery required no boasting, no aggression, only precision and preparation. The room held its collective breath. The 10 SEALs, each trained to dominate in hostile conditions, now lay or stood humbled, struggling to reconcile the reality they had witnessed. The commanding officer, who had observed countless demonstrations of skill, allowed himself a rare, subtle nod of recognition. The efficiency, precision, and psychological command she exhibited were extraordinary. This wasn't simply about physical ability. It was about anticipation, control, and a complete understanding of human movement and tactical psychology. She adjusted her stance slightly, eyes scanning the room once more. There was no arrogance in her posture, no trace of triumph, only calm, deliberate awareness. The impact of her performance went beyond the physical. It had shattered illusions of superiority, replaced mockery with respect, and turned an ordinary training exercise into a lesson none would forget. The SEALs, finally recognizing the extent of her mastery, began slowly rising, their expressions a mixture of disbelief, respect, and introspection. The 9th SEAL approached her cautiously, extending a hand not as a challenge but as an acknowledgement of skill. His voice was steady but reverent. "We misjudged you," he said quietly. "Your skill, it's incredible." The 10th SEAL nodded in agreement, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. This was more than acknowledgement. It was the moment they understood the depth of her capability. She had transformed a routine drill into a powerful lesson. Preparation, focus, and strategy could surpass size, strength, and numbers. Observers on the sidelines whispered among themselves, astonishment clear in their voices. "I've never seen anything like that," one trainee said. "She moved like she knew every move before it happened." Others nodded in agreement, understanding that what they had just witnessed was not just combat proficiency, but mastery of mental and physical synergy. The story of this drill would circulate among the trainees and instructors alike for years, a benchmark for skill, focus, and strategic awareness. Her movements had been a blend of elegance and lethal efficiency. Each takedown, each redirection, each subtle adjustment demonstrated her extraordinary capability. She didn't rely on brute force or speed alone. She relied on calculation, anticipation, and the precise application of energy. In doing so, she had completely neutralized 10 elite operators, leaving a lasting impression not just through action, but through psychological dominance. Every second she spent in the arena reinforced the lesson. True mastery transcends expectation. The SEALs slowly gathered themselves, brushing dust and sweat from their uniforms. Their pride, once unshakable, had been tempered with humility. The laughter and mocking that greeted her arrival had vanished entirely, replaced by quiet recognition of her extraordinary skill. Even the commanding officer, a veteran with decades of experience, recognized the rarity of what he had witnessed. This was more than a drill. It was a demonstration of tactical, mental, and physical excellence at the highest level. As she stepped forward to acknowledge the SEALs, her movements remained calm, controlled, and deliberate. There was no need for boastfulness. Her actions had already spoken volumes. The psychological impact on the SEALs was as profound as the physical demonstration. Each operator had been forced to confront not only their underestimation, but also the reality of her mastery. Confidence had shifted to respect, arrogance to awe, and hesitation to acknowledgement of superior skill. The room seemed to exhale collectively. The drill, which had begun with mockery and doubt, had ended with a profound lesson in capability and composure. Observers realized that mastery often comes unexpectedly, from sources underestimated or overlooked. She had demonstrated not just physical skill, but strategic thinking, anticipation, and the ability to maintain composure under intense pressure. Every takedown, pivot, and redirection reinforced a single truth: preparation and focus could outweigh even elite training and strength. The SEALs, now fully aware of the lesson imparted, approached her with cautious respect. Their expressions revealed the full spectrum of realization: surprise, acknowledgement, and admiration. They had entered the exercise with assumptions of superiority, only to discover that skill and composure could redefine expectation in moments. Each operator had experienced firsthand the consequences of underestimation, and each carried with them the memory of her efficiency and precision. She remained poised, her eyes calm yet observant. Every detail of the environment, every subtle shift of her opponents, had been accounted for in her movements. The SEALs' reactions, though subdued, reflected the impact of the moment. They were in the presence of a truly exceptional operative, someone whose mastery transcended conventional understanding. The lesson of the day was clear, unspoken, but undeniable: never underestimate skill, composure, and preparation. As the last SEALs regained balance, a subtle shift occurred. Respect had replaced disbelief, acknowledgement replaced arrogance, and understanding replaced mockery. The drill had become a defining moment, demonstrating that mastery is not simply about physical prowess, but also about psychological acuity and strategic precision. Every action she had taken, each takedown, pivot, and movement, had reinforced that lesson, leaving an indelible impression on all who had witnessed it. Her presence dominated the room even as the adrenaline of the exercise subsided. The 10 SEALs, each accustomed to confidence and control, now understood the rare combination of skill, focus, and strategic thinking she embodied. She had neutralized every threat, maintained composure, and delivered a lesson in mastery that would resonate far beyond the training facility. The silence that followed spoke volumes, filled with respect, awe, and the acknowledgement of skill unparalleled. By the end of the drill, it was clear that her dominance had been absolute. 10 elite operators, each trained for years to confront danger and assert control, had been neutralized with efficiency, precision, and composure. The story of the morning's exercise would be retold countless times, not as a tale of humiliation, but as a benchmark of extraordinary skill, focus, and strategy. She had demonstrated that mastery is earned through preparation, observation, and unwavering composure under pressure. Even as the SEALs stood, quietly acknowledging her skill, the impact of the demonstration remained palpable. The lessons imparted extended beyond physical technique, reaching into psychological understanding, situational awareness, and the consequences of underestimation. Every observer had witnessed the extraordinary: a single operative, calm, focused, and precise, neutralizing 10 highly trained warriors in moments. The memory of her mastery would linger, shaping training philosophies and expectations for years to come. The training facility was silent, the echo of impact and exertion slowly fading into a heavy, contemplative calm. 10 elite SEALs, humbled by the demonstration, had begun to rise from the mats, brushing themselves off and regaining composure. The earlier bravado, the mockery that had once filled the room, was gone, replaced by introspection. Each operative silently replayed the moments that had led to their neutralization, realizing how completely the operative had dominated the field. What had begun as a simple training drill had transformed into a lesson in humility, skill, and mental fortitude. The commanding officer observed quietly, noting the shifts in demeanor. He recognized that the display had transcended ordinary training. It was in tactical precision and psychological control. The operative had moved with unmatched efficiency, anticipating threats, neutralizing attacks, and maintaining composure throughout. Even the most experienced SEALs, trained to face extreme conditions, were forced to confront the limits of their assumptions. This was a rare occurrence, a demonstration of skill so refined that it would resonate long after the drill concluded. In hushed tones, the first SEAL admitted to himself, "I didn't see it coming. Every move, it was perfect." He glanced at his comrades, noting the same mixture of awe, disbelief, and newfound respect. They had been trained for situations like this, yet none had predicted the combination of speed, strategic thinking, and psychological mastery they had just witnessed. Their understanding of what skill looked like had been redefined in mere moments. The operative remained composed, walking calmly among the SEALs, her presence unassuming yet commanding. There was no celebration, no overt display of triumph. Every action, every glance radiated quiet authority. She had demonstrated her mastery not through words or intimidation, but through flawless execution. This understated dominance had a profound impact, forcing the SEALs to confront their own limitations while recognizing the depth of her ability. Whispers circulated among the observers and trainees. "She anticipated every move," one muttered. "It wasn't just physical skill, it was mental." Another nodded in agreement, realizing the rare combination of talent, preparation, and composure that had been displayed. The room, once filled with confident arrogance, had transformed into a space of reflection and respect. Everyone present understood that what they had witnessed was extraordinary, and that underestimation could be costly in ways they had never fully appreciated. The SEALs began to share their reflections among themselves, their voices low and respectful. "I've trained for years, and yet she moved like she already knew everything we were going to do," one admitted. "I underestimated her, and that was a mistake I won't repeat." Another added, "It wasn't just speed or strength. It was strategy, awareness, and control. That's something you can't train overnight." The acknowledgement was unanimous. They had been schooled in mastery by a single operative. Even as they processed the experience, the SEALs recognized the broader implications. Their training, extensive and grueling as it was, had emphasized skill, endurance, and teamwork. Yet the demonstration had revealed an entirely different dimension: the ability to dominate through anticipation, psychological acuity, and flawless execution under pressure. This was a lesson in adaptability and respect for skill, a reminder that mastery can come from unexpected sources. The commanding officer stepped forward, addressing the room with calm authority. "What we witnessed today wasn't just skill, it was excellence in every sense. Take note of her composure, her precision, and her anticipation. This is the level of mastery we aspire to achieve, and it should serve as a benchmark for all of us." His words carried weight, reinforcing the significance of the demonstration and the lasting impact it would have on training protocols and morale. The operative remained quiet, observing as the SEALs absorbed the lesson. She understood the impact of her actions, not only on their physical and tactical awareness but on their mindset. The experience had challenged assumptions, dismantled overconfidence, and reinforced the importance of preparation and focus. Her calm demeanor, coupled with flawless execution, left an indelible mark on everyone present. Respect had been earned not through intimidation, but through undeniable skill. As the SEALs discussed among themselves, the conversation turned to strategy and technique. "I never realized how much timing and anticipation matter," one said. "We rely on speed and strength, but she showed us how precision and awareness can control the outcome." Another nodded, adding, "It's not just about reacting, it's about predicting and controlling the environment. That's what made the difference." The reflections revealed a deeper understanding of combat, mental acuity, and the subtleties of human movement. The trainees who had observed the demonstration were equally affected. Their admiration was clear, and the lesson extended beyond mere combat technique. They witnessed the power of preparation, focus, and composure, understanding that these attributes could redefine outcomes in high-stakes situations. The operative had demonstrated mastery that transcended physical ability, leaving a profound impression on both seasoned professionals and those still in training. In the quiet aftermath, the SEALs approached her individually, each acknowledging her skill and offering quiet respect. There was no need for words to explain the impact. Her actions had spoken for themselves. One veteran operative extended a hand, nodding in recognition of her ability. "You've set a standard today," he said. "I've never seen anything like it." Others followed, expressing similar sentiments, all aware that what they had experienced was rare, transformative, and unforgettable. Even as the physical exertion of the drill subsided, the psychological impact remained. The SEALs processed the lesson in humility, the importance of focus, and the consequences of underestimation. Her mastery had forced them to confront their own limitations while inspiring them to elevate their own skill and awareness. The quiet confidence and control she exhibited had shifted their perception of what was possible, leaving a lasting impression on their approach to training and engagement. The commanding officer concluded the session with a final remark. "Today, we learned more than just technique. We learned respect for skill, the importance of preparation, and the value of composure under pressure. Remember this demonstration and let it guide your approach moving forward." His words the significance of the moment, reinforcing that mastery is measured not only in physical execution, but in mental acuity and the ability to control outcomes decisively. The operative's demonstration became the subject of discussion for days afterward. Stories circulated of her calm precision, her ability to neutralize 10 elite operators with efficiency, and the psychological dominance she had established. Trainees and instructors alike reflected on the importance of anticipation, control, and composure. The experience transcended the physical realm, emphasizing the mental and strategic components of mastery. Even the SEALs themselves began to adjust their approach in future exercises. They incorporated lessons learned from observing her, the importance of reading subtle cues, predicting intent, and maintaining composure under pressure. Her demonstration reshaped not only their perception of skill, but also their approach to teamwork, strategy, and engagement. The impact of her mastery would extend far beyond that single drill, influencing the culture and methodology of training within the unit. In the quiet moments that followed, the operative stepped back, observing the SEALs as they recovered, reflected, and adjusted. Her calm presence radiated confidence without arrogance, authority without force. She had earned respect not through intimidation, but through undeniable skill, preparation, and focus. The lesson was complete. Mastery is demonstrated through action, anticipation, and composure, leaving a lasting impression far beyond the physical engagement. By the end of the day, the SEALs and trainees had internalized the profound lessons imparted. They understood that true mastery transcends size, strength, and experience, and that focus, preparation, and composure are critical to dominance. The exercise had begun with mockery, evolved into confrontation, and concluded with reflection, respect, and acknowledgement. The operative's performance had transformed expectations, leaving a lasting mark on everyone present. The story of that day would endure, a tale of skill, strategy, and composure that forced elite warriors to confront their own assumptions and appreciate the power of preparation. Her demonstration became a benchmark, a model of mastery that inspired both respect and aspiration. The SEALs, once confident and mocking, now carried with them the memory of a single operative's unparalleled precision and control. The echoes of the day's events lingered long after the mats had been cleared, and the training facility returned to routine. 10 elite SEALs, once confident and mocking, had been humbled, taught a lesson not through words but through action, precision, and composure. Their reflections, the whispers of awe from trainees, and the nods of respect from commanding officers formed a chorus of recognition for a skill rarely witnessed and never underestimated. The operative's mastery had redefined expectations, leaving a profound impression that would endure in memory, conversation, and practice. Word of her demonstration spread quickly throughout the unit. Trainees shared stories with new recruits, recounting the calm efficiency, predictive movements, and flawless execution that had neutralized 10 elite operators in seconds. Even those who had not witnessed the event firsthand spoke of the spectacle, its psychological and physical mastery becoming part of the unit's lore. Her performance set a new standard for excellence, inspiring not just admiration, but aspiration among the next generation of operators. The SEALs themselves carried the lesson forward. In future exercises, they recalled her composure under pressure, the precision of her movements, and her ability to anticipate and neutralize threats. The humbling experience reshaped their approach to training, engagement, and assessment of potential opponents. Confidence, while still essential, was tempered with awareness. Mockery had been replaced with respect, and arrogance with an understanding of the power of preparation and focus. They had witnessed firsthand the results of true mastery. The commanding officer, impressed beyond words, ensured that the lesson would be formally recognized within the unit. "What we witnessed today," he said, "is more than skill. It's a standard for excellence. Let it guide our training, our strategy, and our understanding of what mastery truly entails." His acknowledgement elevated the event from an extraordinary demonstration to a lasting benchmark within the training culture, a symbol of precision, composure, and strategic brilliance. Her impact extended beyond the SEALs directly involved. Trainees and observers carried the story into classrooms, briefing rooms, and field exercises. Every retelling emphasized not only her physical dominance, but also the strategic, anticipatory, and psychological elements of her performance. The narrative became a case study in the importance of observation, preparation, and controlled execution. Her demonstration highlighted how mastery is as much mental as it is physical, and how composure under pressure can decisively influence outcomes. Months later, the memory of the event remained vivid among the unit. Operators still spoke of her calm movements, the predictive accuracy that left no room for surprise, and the unwavering focus that allowed her to dominate without visible strain. Trainees tried to emulate the precision and control she exhibited, understanding that true mastery required more than brute force or speed. Her example became a cornerstone for teaching discipline, anticipation, and the art of efficiency in tactical engagement. The SEALs who had faced her carried the lesson in both humility and inspiration. They reflected not only on the experience of being neutralized, but also on the qualities that allowed her to achieve such mastery. Mental acuity, focus, anticipation, and composure became points of discussion during debriefs and strategy sessions. They examined every detail of her movements, every subtle pivot, and every controlled takedown, seeking to internalize the principles behind her mastery. The experience had shifted their perception of skill and influenced their approach to both training and real-world operations. Beyond training, her legacy influenced the broader culture of the unit. Her demonstration became a symbol of what was possible when preparation, awareness, and composure were combined with physical skill. Leadership encouraged trainees to study the principles exhibited, emphasizing observation, prediction, and efficiency. The story of a single operative neutralizing 10 elite SEALs became a teaching tool, inspiring both respect and motivation. Operators learned that mastery was achievable, but only through relentless focus, discipline, and a willingness to anticipate rather than merely react. Her calm and controlled presence had also left a lasting psychological impression. Observers realized that mastery is not always about loud demonstrations or aggressive displays. It is often quiet, precise, and methodical. The operative had moved with confidence without arrogance, dominance without showmanship. That subtlety became part of the unit's collective understanding. Respect is earned through action focus, and the ability to anticipate and control, not through force or intimidation. Her performance provided a model for both physical and mental excellence. In the weeks that followed, leadership formally recognized her achievement. Awards, commendations, and acknowledgement in briefings cemented her demonstration as a historic benchmark. Her mastery became a reference point for evaluating skill, composure, and tactical awareness. Operators revisited recordings of the exercise, analyzing each movement, anticipating what cues she had observed, and understanding the timing that made her seemingly untouchable. Her performance was studied, not merely for spectacle, but for the lessons in preparation, precision, and psychological dominance it conveyed. The SEALs who had been involved reflected on more than just the mechanics of combat. They considered the broader implications: humility in success, the danger of underestimation, and the profound impact of composure under pressure. Each operator carried the experience forward, influencing future interactions, training approaches, and strategic thinking. The drill, once intended as a demonstration of skill, had become an enduring lesson in mastery, leadership, and psychological insight. Trainees across the unit continued to cite her performance as a defining moment in their education. Her movements, precision, and anticipation became examples of excellence to emulate. Leadership incorporated her demonstration into training protocols, emphasizing not just physical technique, but the importance of reading intention, predicting action, and maintaining composure in dynamic environments. The story of her mastery spread far beyond the walls of the training facility, influencing the broader culture of preparation and respect within the force. As time passed, the operative's actions became legend. Accounts of the demonstration were retold with increasing reverence, and her calm, calculated approach was consistently highlighted. Trainers emphasized that true mastery is not about overwhelming force or rapid action alone. It is about anticipating, controlling, and executing with perfect efficiency. Her influence extended into the very ethos of the unit, inspiring operators to refine not just their physical skills, but their mental acuity and composure under pressure. Even years later, veterans and trainees alike recounted the event as a turning point in their understanding of skill and capability. Her performance became a benchmark for excellence, a model for achieving mastery through preparation, observation, and psychological control. Operators would reflect on her composure, efficiency, and precision as they faced challenges, drawing lessons that extended far beyond the mats of that training facility. The legacy of her actions endured, shaping both strategy and mindset across the unit. Her demonstration left an undeniable impact. The SEALs had been humbled, trainees inspired, and leadership impressed. The narrative of her mastery became a tool for teaching, reflection, and motivation. She had proven that skill, focus, and composure could surpass numbers, strength, and assumptions. Through her actions, she transformed an ordinary training exercise into a defining moment of excellence, forever remembered as a testament to the power of preparation, precision, and psychological mastery. In the quiet moments after the exercise, she stood among the operators, calm and unassuming. The respect in the room was palpable, the acknowledgement of her skill universal. Her mastery had been evident not only in physical execution, but in the psychological imprint left on all who witnessed it. Every SEAL, from the first to the last, had internalized the lesson. Excellence is earned, not assumed, and mastery demands focus, anticipation, and unwavering composure. The story would endure, retold for years as an example of what was possible when preparation met skill, strategy met composure, and focus overcame arrogance. Trainees would study her movements, leadership would reference her approach, and operators would carry the lesson into every challenge they faced. Her legacy was secure. A single operative, calm, precise, and unstoppable, had redefined expectations and demonstrated the true meaning of mastery.